Alrighty, y'all. Well, we have a lot to cover, so I am going to start. But before we even get there, I just want to give a heads up that this workshop is going to be recorded. So if you want, feel free to have your video on. For most of this presentation, I'll ask you to be on mute. That way it's just a little easier for all of us to hear. But please utilize the chat. Let's see if I can get something in the chat right now. Amazing. Hello, hello. And yeah, without further ado, welcome to Marketing for Artists. My name is Grace Nakahara. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the program manager at Artist Trust, as well as your workshop instructor for the evening. When I'm not program managing, I am an oil painter. I have degrees in both creative writing and fine arts. And I'm just kind of here to share with you a little bit about what I know about marketing for artists. So to start things off, Artist Trust likes to do a little bit of housekeeping, including a land and labor acknowledgement. For our land acknowledgement, we acknowledge what we do is statewide work, and that work is on land stolen from Native and Indigenous people. Our office is on Duwamish land, and I too am currently on unceded Coast Salish land, and recognize that they were the first people here and were forced to move. Understanding our place in history and understanding how we can better support Indigenous communities is ongoing work. And our labor acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we benefit from the prosperity of the United States, which is built on the labor of enslaved people. Please join us in expressing our deepest respect and gratitude for the descendants of those who built this country. So for those of you who may not be familiar with Artist Trust is a nonprofit org whose sole mission is to support and encourage individual artists working in all disciplines in order to enrich community life throughout Washington state. Artist Trust serves artists of all disciplines across the state with things like grants and professional development opportunities, quite like this workshop here. And at the center of it, artists are always at the center of our work. For the values, I just wanted to share with you some of our values, which were created in collaboration with artists from across Washington state. We are a community. We see artists as leaders. We share power and resources. We earn trust. We engage in continued learning. These values live on our website, and you can visit them at artisttrust.org to learn about them in full detail. And now, what we're all here for. This is just a brief workshop overview about what we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to be going over developing a brand, how to grow your own community and find your target audience. We're going to do a worksheet that I'm going to drop in the chat eventually. Then we're going to move on to your online presence and how that ties back into marketing yourself as an artist, as well as doing and finishing up with a little bit of planning for success, thinking about the next steps it takes to get there to where you want to be when it comes to marketing as an audience, as an artist, to an audience. And we're going to do some small breakout rooms as well as a goal setting exercise before wrapping it up with a Q&A. But I want to pause here and just ask, is there any questions so far? Feel free to pop off mute or to drop it in the chat as well. Well, if there are, oh, I see. Nolisha says, will we have access to the video post call today? That is a great question. And yes, we'll try to send this, hold on here. We will send the recording to all the registrants for this class next week. Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, happy to ask or happy to help answer. All right, so let's get in to the nitty-gritty, y'all. What does it mean to market as an artist? So first we need to ask about what necessities or what necessitates really an artist to market themselves and their work. And then we can kind of brainstorm how to go about it. So why do artists need to market themselves? Of course, there are some big things that come to mind. For example, to increase awareness of the artist and their work, to grow their communities, which of course will lead them to more opportunities, and then of course to be able to better monetize their practice. So how do artists market? And I'm going to leave a little space here for y'all to throw in the chat just one or two ways in which artists, quite like yourselves, market themselves. There are no wrong answers, and yeah, we'll give it 30 seconds or so. All right, Randall says social media. Robin mentioned an email list. Sandy also said social media and a website. Amazing. Alicia said word of mouth. Katie says social media posts, going to events and meeting other artists. Yeah, I think you guys are all hitting the nail on the head. There are ways that artists market themselves both online through things like an online presence, kind of tying into maybe this online brand, even a streamline that goes through their practice and also their social media presence and also their website. And there are also other ways to market that are IRL. So going to events and networking, rubbing elbows, leaving pamphlets, all that good stuff. The mailing list is also an amazing thing. I am signed up to many an artist mailing lists. It's how I know what is going on in Artist Trust in Washington State. Karen here says, having a succinct and clear message, for example, a blurb that I can tell people when we are talking casually. For example, tell everyone. Yeah, absolutely. I think an elevator pitch, just something easy, casual, and in the back of your pocket to whip out to kind of introduce people is a great way to kind of get the ball rolling when it comes to marketing yourself. Being able to kind of condense who you are and what you do into this like easily recognizable and digestible thing is so huge and so hard as artists, because I feel like we're so practiced when it comes to, you know, the actual practice side of it. People want to write or dance or perform or sing. It's much harder to go about the business aspect and to really condense it down when what we do and who we are feels so huge. So all of you guys get gold stars, absolutely. We're going to try and jump into and cover a few of the things that were thrown out into the chat. And I'm just going to go to the next slide here and kind of reiterate what's already been said. So yeah, artists will, do we have a question in the chat?
I'm sorry, it might have been me. I said thank you.
Thanks.
But I know I joined late, so I appreciate you quick recap.
Oh yeah, of course. Happy to have you.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So all of you guys, everybody, y'all are so right. Yeah. Social media, word of mouth, mailing lists, and even down to like a more broad understanding, artists really market themselves by sending a clear message about who they are, who you guys are as artists, and about what it is that you will do. Promoting your work to specific audiences, for example, the people that you're looking for, be them supporters, people to come to shows, customers, galleries, publishers that you want to support you, or readers. There's a huge number of people out there who are looking for specifically what you and your practice have to offer. And I think all of you guys nailed this one too, is artists market themselves by putting yourselves out there, whether it's online through things like social media, your website or your mailing list, or in real life, so attending those networking events. Let's continue on. Let's jump into it. So let's talk about that first kind of bullet point, creating a succinct, recognizable way of marketing yourselves. It's developing your own personal brand. And there are these 3 questions that can kind of help you get started when it comes to developing your brand, with the idea of your goals, which are questions to ask yourself at the beginning of your, practice brand journey. And here they are. Those questions to help you start developing your brand as an artist should be the same questions that people have when starting to develop a brand for their business. And those are going to be, who am I? What is my practice? And then, who do I want to attract? It's super important to think about your goals, strengths, and business development. Think about who you are as an artist. What are your strengths? What is it about you and your practice that make you so unique? And what is going to speak to the authenticity of your practice and what you bring to your own community? Let's jump into it a little deeper here. So, your personal brand and visual identity. A big part of determining how you want to present yourself and your practice has to do with your personal brand identity. And, what does this mean? Well, your personal brand and visual identity should help easily and consistently define, express, and communicate who you are as an artist. Are you a watercolorist who loves landscapes? Maybe different parts of your branding, be it online, in real life, if you have a business card, what you want to promote on your Instagram, and we'll jump into social media later, should kind of flow along the themes of what you see in your practice. Maybe you're a writer and you deal with kind of these dark, heavy, scary themes. Maybe leaning into that a little bit, getting a little spooky with your Twitter or with your website can kind of help create this really digestible, really recognizable understanding of who you are and what you do. This should be the common thread running through your online presence, your physical space, if you have one, for example, a studio, and your marketing materials. So again, that's going to be your social media. Maybe you have a business card, as well as your actual practice as an artist. These are those themes. This should come through in colors, fonts, the tone of voice, and the language that you use throughout any materials that you use to promote or represent yourself, such as business cards, again, websites, social media, newsletters, even posters. It's always going to be uniquely you. It allows you to distinguish yourself from everybody else. What is unique about you and what you do? Your brand is about marketing yourself and making yourself known for your skills and your talents. Many of you likely already have a visual brand identity or are maybe working on this. When you're creating your own personal brand identity, I just got a hiccup. Okay, sorry about that. When you are creating your personal brand identity, if you're unsure where to start, remember there are some tips to help you develop your own personal brand identity, which is be true to yourself. So start with the basics of things that you like and that resonate with you and what you're doing. I know that when I am in my studio, when I am painting myself, I love to paint kind of more horror movie themed things. And so things that resonate with me are, like campy, scary movie posters. I love a little like Halloween-esque fake gore. I'm sorry, that might not be for everybody, but it is true to me. And so that's the audience that I'll be looking for. Another tip when creating your own personal brand identity is to look for inspiration. Have creative integrity, but know that you can use the internet and you can research. You don't have to steal necessarily to have integrity, and to recognize parts of other artists' visual brands that you might want to kind of, what's the word? Set your own brand in that similar direction, kind of be the inspiration for it is that you want to do. Think about your key values and key themes in your work. And we're going to touch back on values and how they tie into marketing as artists later in this presentation. Remember to always think about your audience, who it is that you're trying to attract and for what reason. And most importantly, be it for marketing yourself as an audience or applying to an artist grant, consistency will always be key. Be consistent, rely on something that you can commit to really create a really bold and impactful brand identity. So let's talk about translating your brand into a customer base, community, or an audience. The question of who you are trying to attract can play a huge role in helping you determine the direction of your marketing presence, of your brand. And a values proposition can help us determine this. Earlier this year, artist D.A. Navoti really broke this down into a presentation about knowing your worth for artist trust. And so I want to acknowledge them, acknowledge D.A. as I talk about this values proposition in this context. So what is a values proposition? It's a simple statement that summarizes why a customer, why an audience member would choose you and your product or service. It communicates the clearest benefit that customers, partners, organizations, or audience members receive by giving you their business consideration and time. What is the promise to your audience? For this, we're going to think kind of broadly about why somebody would choose to give you their business time or attention. For example, I'm a huge fan of this. A board member at Artist Trust is a ceramicist in Olympia, and her brand, it's so minimal. It focuses on functional wares with an emphasis on using reclaimed clay and materials to reduce waste. Because of this, all of her packaging materials are 100% recycled and compostable. These details around using responsible materials and her values add to her values proposition and communicates not only what her customers are buying, but also has an impact on the type of client that she is going to attract. And I know these are going to be a little more businessy, a little less artsy, but stick with me.
Could you, excuse me.
Oh yeah.
Could you elaborate on what that is? Like what, or is now not the time?
No, absolutely. Are you talking about a values proposition?
No, just I know who you're speaking of, I think, and I was just wondering, so what is that customer base? What is that person, what does that person look like? What does her customer look like? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. So I don't know if I can answer exactly what they look like, but the customer base that this artist is going to attract are people who are sharing those same values, those values of sustainability, those values of kind of, I don't want to say utilitarian, but yeah, it's having things that are beautiful and useful. Those are the types of people, those are the types of values that customer base will have, and they'll be attracted to this artist because it communicates so clearly those two things as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because I know the person I just connected the dots with all of that. I have some things that are similar. And so I was trying to figure out mine from that, but I don't know, mine's a little bit different in some ways. So
interesting. Okay.
For me to figure out. So that's why I'm here.
Excellent. I'm so happy to have you. I mean, if any more questions pop up during this time, feel free to throw them in. And also a huge shout out to this artist because her work is truly amazing. Their work is phenomenal. Now I'm excited to see your work. You say it's similar in some ways.
Oh yeah, no. Mariel is much more, has a lot of experience and yeah, I think she's way beyond me.
She's beyond all of us. All right. Great. Okay, but Mariella here is a great example of, those values really shining through. I think, in the way that she utilizes different aspects of marketing. For example, these photos, to kind of communicate what it is that she is looking to attract. It's that minimalist, it's sustainability, it's fresh, it's people who are attracted to that kind of almost atmosphere. Those kinds of values will tend to be drawn towards her work. Something else we can look at as an example, which is not quite so related, and a little outside of the arts, is going to be McDonald's. And we're actually going to compare this one to Sweet Green, so you can see a little bit of them side by side. At McDonald's, what you're getting is fast food at an affordable price. It is consistent, and you know what you're going to get basically anywhere in the world. The supply chain is huge, and the brand, it's going to be about, fun and tasty food on the go and just really putting calories in your system. And we can compare that then to Sweet Green. Conversely, at Sweet Green, you're going to be paying, dare I say, a lot more, but you'll be investing in a positive force in the local food system. Sweet Green is technically fast food, but is building a transparent supply network, cooking from scratch, and building a community of people who believe in the power of, quote unquote, real food. I think both brands, they have a lot to offer, but you can see even in the way that they are marketing themselves. Again, McDonald's with those like poppy, fun, fast colors, it makes you think of, being on the go, go, go. And it kind of communicates truly what you're going to get, as well as Sweet Green communicating something a little different, something a little bit less poppy, more earthy. You're like, all right, this brand is a little bit more about stepping back from the go, go, go and being a little bit more with the, dare I say, earth. So coming back to it, to that translating your brand into your customer base, what is your promise to your customers as an artist? Through these examples, we can see much more of the promise could be said through things like visuals, colors, and fonts. That's that brand identity. And I want to take a pause here and ask you guys to kind of share in the chat if anybody can share an example of either a brand, or if you have an artist in mind, either local or global, that you think succeeds at this, translating their values through their branding, through those things like visuals, colors, and fonts. Go ahead and throw them in the chat, just because I'm also kind of interested. We'll give it a few seconds. Let's say 30 more seconds.
We're literally writing in the chat.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, no worries.
Where to put all the windows. I don't know if I'm fast enough. So you don't want us to speak?
Oh, if you're off mute, absolutely. You can go ahead and speak.
Oh, am I off mute to everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I couldn't tell, but I just wanted to say that for the differences between me and your first example, for example, is that I'm just starting to make these tiles, these that are more, decorative and colorful. And so in trying to figure out my brand, I am also use recycled materials in packaging, compostable and locally sourced. Everything's locally sourced. And I can't think of it. another aspect, but so I'm not, I think I feel like it's so big that it's hard for me to break down.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, thinking about kind of like values as they translate into how you utilize all these different materials that you're working with. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here. Again, we'll dive into some of the less broader stuff.
Okay.
But starting again with that, thinking about what are your values and how you want to communicate to them, to those customers. And if you also have that value of sustainability, I think promoting that through that kind of clean imagery, quite like Mariella, is a great place to start when it comes to marketing yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. We have a couple in the chat. It sounds like Cassandra says Pix_bun is a good example. And also It's Betty Jiang is a great example. And I'm taking notes here because I'm going to look up these people later. Cassandra says, Pixbun has a really nice online presence, really friendly and well done videos. And yeah, that thoughtfulness of that online presence is such a huge way, dare I say, a marketing win when it comes to presenting yourself and your work online. People are more likely to remember you and to interact with your presence, be it online, or your IRL materials, so business cards, posters, all of that. If they are a little more fun, if they are a little more approachable. Let's continue on here. Thank you, everybody. Oh, before we go, I suppose, talking about all of this branding identity, I guess I also want to say is that strong branding identity with that visual stuff will help you increase your brand recognition. It can improve customer loyalty. Somebody has their music on right now. Hold on. Oh, thanks, y'all. But yeah, people in your community will be easily able to recognize what you are doing and to stand by it. It also increases positive word of mouth marketing, which is quite like what we already done. For example, Cassandra mentioning Pixbun and Betty Jiang. It also will have higher advertising effectiveness on customers. And there's also going to be lower price sensitivity in the long run. People are going to pay more for your values and your strong identity. And I feel this about some of the brands and some of the artists that I love. It's just part of the magic. And now we can move in to really finding that audience. So what are your audience goals? In what ways do you want the community to play a part in your practice? Do you want to try and build a following online? Do you want to find people with similar values that will appreciate the work that you do, gain a blue check mark on, now it's X, get an Instagram following, notoriety, et cetera, et cetera? Are you trying to find customers who will buy your work or take us to your shows? Or are you looking for mentors, sponsors, partners, and collaborators to work with? Do you want a partner with do you want to partner with businesses or gain recognition from certain organizations? There are a lot of different audience goals that people have when it comes to marketing their work. And we're about to jump into them. So why is community vital for an artist? One of your greatest tools as an artist is your community. Community is about authenticity and meaningful connections. Think about the way that your community can help you spread the word about your work and really become an ambassador for what it is that you do. With your community, you are more likely to fall into things like opportunities, so showcases, projects, and referrals. Community is also there to help you with growth and stimulation for things like advice, feedback, and constructive criticism. There's also kinship, so assistance and support, friendship, help, mentorship, influence, and of course, it helps you to network. Um, so when it comes to networking, when it comes to building that community, remember to put yourself out there. I know it's hard sometimes maybe I should just speak for myself. Sometimes as an introvert, it's hard to leave the house, but attending events, big and small, do make a difference. You never know who you're going to run into at, for example, the Seattle Art Fair or a First Friday. You can go to things like conferences with the same values and themes that you have within your work. It's really just about putting yourself out there and starting the conversation. I also want to mention potential partnerships. So part of your community is thinking about strategic partnerships with other artists, with businesses, and with organizations. When you create a strategic partnership, the rewards can be immediate or they can take time. But being a leader in your community that endorses and supports other artists and or other small businesses, it can be extremely valuable. On the flip side, it's really important to think about your values and the subject matter that your work brushes up against and broaden your thinking about strategic partnerships that might be mutually beneficial between you and larger organizations. For example, my coworker has some friends who own a clothing company, and they're constantly partnering with larger and smaller brands, both local and international, to build brand awareness, have projects funded, and create buzz about limited offerings and their newest, funkiest projects. All right, let's move into something that all of you guys mentioned at the beginning of this, which I think we all kind of associate with marketing, which is going to be your online presence, marketing, and you. Starting, of course, with building that online presence. There are a couple different ways in which we kind of think about building that online presence. One is going to be through your website. That's your home base for people to learn about you and your work. They can easily access things like a CV or a resume or collections that you want to present. It's a great way to kind of develop that personal brand. Another one is going to be your online sales venues, so digital marketplaces for your art. Somebody mentioned this at the beginning, and like huge shout out to them, but email and mailing lists. Having an up-to-date way of distributing information about your work and your upcoming events is huge when it comes to building and maintaining an audience. There are also blogs, so places for public-facing reflections about your work. And of course, the big bad here, which is social media, which kind of involves, it says here, daily sharing about your practice and to meet people where they are, but you can interact with social media as much as possible. It's a great way to expand your network, to build stronger relationships and also new relationships. And we're going to touch on that right now. So what can social media be used for? How can we as artists utilize social media for marketing? I know I just dropped a couple, and feel free to steal those, but if you want to throw out in the chat a couple different ways in which we can utilize social media for marketing as artists, or just, as artists, how can we use social media for things like, I'll get the ball rolling, but building a public persona or really creating that specific visual brand.
Excuse me, Grace. I feel like that's the area that I need the most help in. Because I thought I understood it, and then everything changed, with the Meta's process for things. So now I feel completely confused, and I don't know which button to push, or
I do, yeah. I mean, social media, especially like Meta and X, right? Like all of these different places are always trying to get people to interact, to stay on longer. And in doing so, they're always changing, right? They're always making it a little bit more confusing, but a little bit more intriguing. So it can be hard to kind of stay up to date. This is going to be a little bit more of a broader look at what social media can be used for and how to utilize it for marketing. But there's also going to be a really in-depth workshop for social media as artists, specifically on social media for artists. I think it's going to be November 7th by Artist Trust.
Okay, I'll look for that.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. And then I see chat has been popping off over here. So we have Alicia saying, sharing a new work in progress, sharing our processes, Julie. Alicia says, sharing a new collection of work or a time lapse of the art process or progress. Cassandra says, meeting new artists, clients from all around the world. Sandy says, I like to show my work in progress photos. I asked for suggestions on titles to pieces. Amazing way to engage with an audience. Shout out. Karen says, producing online live moments, posting videos, showing you on action, commenting on your work. Yes. Commenting, engaging with other artists. Says Robin, announcing and promoting an event. This is Karen. Jay said, announcing events, shows, news items, staying in touch with artists. Cassandra says, showing your personality and stories behind your work. And you guys, you're all crushing it. Y'all should be hosting this workshop. So yeah, Social media, it like consists of websites, platforms, forums, and applications that encourage virtual engagement, content sharing, and social interaction and community building. There are a lot of different social media platforms. Lou, you mentioned that things are changing. So there was formerly Twitter, now it's X, okay. There's Instagram, there's Twitch, there's formerly Facebook, now Meta, Reddit, YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, Goodreads, Pinterest, WhatsApp, Discord, and so many others. There's truly an overwhelming amount of social media apps, but we're going to kind of brush those away and just take a look at some of the bigger ones over here. So some popular social media platforms. There are so many social media platforms today, and some are definitely better suited for certain aspects of audience building, marketing, and artistic practices than others. And these are the big three that people tend to use. So I'm going to talk about these ones. First, there's Meta, formerly Facebook, and it's super helpful for creating a direct line of communication between you, the artist, and your audience. They are able to engage, to leave comments, to join events, all of that good stuff. Again, with that platforming events, it's one of the most useful ways that you can get out information about when is your next show, your next performance, where is it going to be, all of that digestible information that you can just link people to. That is great. Meta is also useful for building your own community and for doing a little bit of what was talked about in the chat, right? So it's posting updates, pictures. You can post videos to Meta, and you can also post event pages. X is going to be a little different. So that's great for showcasing your work. I'll say if Meta and Instagram are more for the visually leaning practices, X might be a little bit more for the literary side, or perhaps if you have like a really strong social, I want to say messaging through your work, X might also be a great place for you, mostly because you are able to share your ideas and your values through X. But again, you can showcase and promote your work through X. You can expand your audience to a global scale, expand your network, your community, and again, you can create a direct line of communication between you and your audience. And then lastly, we have Instagram over here. So, or as I have written, Instagram, which helps you if you're trying to create a visual story. Instagram is really easy to curate. You can utilize different aspects of it, like Instagram Live or saved stories, or now they have video reels. And you're able to use it to pin up to 3 posts to keep at the top of your feeds. That way, when people are engaging with you, you can have what's most important that they see at the very top. Some other popular media platforms that I want to shout out, of course, are going to be YouTube, which allows you to do longer videos such as behind the scenes, DIYs, any workshops and webinars and live streams. It's a great platform to have. And I know a lot of artists have a YouTube channel to show those exact things. There's also Patreon. So that is a great platform for subscription services. We're talking about monetizing your work, of course, which can be used to grow sales and sales-related revenue through things like tiered models, support cultivation, and also monthly payouts. One that is up and coming on the rise is TikTok, which creates quick video clips for easier consumption that aligns with other platforms. So you'll often see TikToks on YouTube or on Instagram. And I want to shout out TikTok too. I know there was an artist that I was recently talking with who during the pandemic was struggling to get back out into the community. They were living in a smaller town. And as things were shutting down, it was harder for this artist to go out. And so they started using TikTok, and they were kind of afraid. They were like, I'm going to be the oldest person on TikTok. But lo and behold, I think they have like close to 1 million subscribers now. They were able to get on the rise with curated videos about who they are as an artist and behind the scenes of how they create their work. They're a woodworker. And now they've expanded their audience and are selling things not only in their small town, but now on a global scale. So TikTok is definitely one to look out for. And lastly, I want to highlight Twitch, which is a streaming service used to grow an international network, just like TikTok, just like YouTube, to create content and really to start building your own personal brand. And I'm going to touch on now some best practices. Well, first, of course, some social media and marketing. So when it comes to marketing using these platforms, social media helps you to create that streamlined way of seeing your work. It will get the idea of what type of post gets the most engagement, so you can continue to kind of up the ante on that way of interacting with your audience. So whether it is behind the scenes or asking for people to name titles, it helps you better understand what engagement your audience is looking for. It's an opportunity to market your work and to get direct feedback. It's an easy way for a new audience to come across your work, much easier than it would be perhaps in a small coffee shop where only a limited number of people can stumble in there and get a coffee and see your work. Now a bunch of people, dare I say, like a global amount of people can stumble across your work. It will help you create that following, right? People who are excited, an audience that wants to lift you up and promote you and your values. And well, most importantly, it's going to help you introduce yourself to other creatives in your field. So for best practices, ways to really utilize social media when it comes to marketing yourself as an artist are to keep these best practices in mind. One is to set daily or weekly engagement goals. Honestly, at this point, I think I have more monthly engagement goals. And, I've seen kind of a dip in work interacting with an audience. So I would say weekly, absolutely. Do you want to post a certain amount of times? Do you want to comment on a certain amount of people's Instagram posts? Do you want to promote your work and spend a little money on getting that work just thrown into certain sections? You want to utilize hashtags. Those are some of the weekly engagement goals that you can have. Also, to be responsive. When people are commenting on something that you've posted, let them know, like it back, comment back, interact with other people on your platform. You can share upcoming events, exhibitions, readings, performances, or whatever really speaks to your artistic practice there. It should be an easy way for artists and audience members to keep up with you. Show, like you guys said, your behind the scenes footage of something that you're currently working on. If there's a go live option, you can use it to talk about your work or to chat with somebody or just to update your followers on where you are with your practice. Also, social media can be used to promote others and to share your excitement about artists practicing in your field or your friends, your community, or your network. Comment and like other artists' posts that you admire and start cultivating friendships online. Look for things like mentorships, partnerships, or just ways to further engage with. And also promote new work for sale, drops in prices, giveaways, raffles, and open commissions. Keep posts focused on your creative endeavors. And again, if you want a more in-depth way about how to utilize social media as an artist, keep an eye out for Luther Hughes's workshop on social media, which will be on the Artist Trust events page on November, and will be held on November 7th. Let's move on to your website. So if social media is one half of the online presence, your artist website is going to be the other. Your artist website can be hosted on truly anything, but some of the big ones that we like to highlight are Squarespace, Wix, Cargo, which is what I have and use, WordPress, Ucraft, Weebly, 22 Slides, Adobe Portfolio, and Format. These are usually the easiest to interact with because they will have templates that will kind of help you get a leg up on creating a curated and visual brand for your artwork and your artistic practice. Your artist website should include quality digital samples of your work with brief descriptions. If it's applicable, it should include prices for artwork if you're looking to sell. It should also usually include a creative statement. This means an artist statement, a mission, or a plain statement of your values, just something so it lets people know who are coming to visit your site what this work is about to be about. Often artist websites will include either a resume or an artistic CV. That way people can kind of look and see what it is that this artist has been doing, be it going to residencies where this artist has been showing, that sort of thing, the publications that this artist has published. And also sometimes it has links to things like special projects, any press related to your work, if it's been, fingers crossed, in a stranger, or press releases about upcoming shows. That's also a great thing to have. Oh, sorry, did somebody? But that's something great to have in there, as well as links to your social media. Also on social media, most often artists will have links to their website. So that way they can kind of go in between those two platforms, which will usually complement each other. A successful website is easy to navigate, both on a desktop and on one's mobile phone, which is something important to remember. The creative's personality and the work are usually front and center. A successful artist website is going to be updated regularly with relevant content, easy to understand, easy to navigate, and most important, it's going to be informative. That could mean about the process, about the background, about the contact info, and about what it is that this artist does. Some website tips to keep in mind are just to keep it simple, to share the work that you are most proud of, to organize your work into bodies in your gallery, to make sure that your website is also mobile friendly, and to think about Google and search engine optimization, which means using tags, images, or keywords that are going to be hit when people are Googling you, or Googling for art kind of like yours. So with me, I usually like to use the hashtags, like spooky art, scary art, oil painting, those kinds of things. Also, remember, you're cultivating a following. And so when you are creating your website, make sure that you have an option to a mailing list where people can sign up about receiving information about any upcoming events that you have. Something else you can do to cultivate that following through your website are things like blog posts about updating events, as well as strategic linking, again, to things like event pages on your Facebook or upcoming posts on your Instagram. So remember, keep your site updated, continue evolving your online personality and visual brand, utilize those things like tone, colors, and values. Keep in touch with your audience and use your website to create that mailing list. And use visual elements, but always use tags and keywords on the back end too, those hashtags, spooky art. Evolve your site as technology evolves, and keep the structure and design as simple as possible for you and for your audience. let's start wrapping this guy up. The last thing that I have in this workshop is just some goals for us to kind of look ahead, set a marketing goal for ourselves. Let's go. So let's get into it. Let's plan for success. One of the ways in which I like to utilize a plan is something called a SMART goal. So what is that? Well, it is an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. We're going to wrap this up into how we want to market ourselves. So when we think about specific, this answers the like who, the what, and the where of your goal. Your goal should clearly define what you want to accomplish. The more specific and precise your goal is, the easier it's going to be to evaluate the progress that you're making towards achieving your goal. For marketing as an artist, you're looking to outsource some of the business aspects of your practice. Maybe you're looking to reach a certain demographic or a quantity of people, or maybe you're just looking to jump back in and really start building up your visual brand again. Those can be the specifics of your goal. The M, measurable, you should be able to evaluate whether or not the goal was achieved. Did you meet your goal for X, Y, and Z? You also need to think about how you will know if you achieved your goal. If you can find yourself not being able to assess the accomplishment of the goal, then maybe you should change your goal to something you can measure. So I can say, I want to meet people, but that's not necessarily measurable. But if I change it to, I want to meet 10 new people in my artistic practice, that is going to be a more measurable goal. The next part is going to be achievable. So your goal should be set as something that you can achieve with your current competence and capabilities. This allows you to assess whether the goal is something you can accomplish. You won't want to set yourself up for failure. Is the goal something that you have the time and the resources to do? Not to say that you guys can't achieve anything you put your minds to, but an achievable goal would be a lot more easy to be like, oh, I want to post on social media 2 times a week, at least. It's a much more achievable goal than being like, I want my artwork to hang in every museum ever, always. Dream big, absolutely. Let's start a little smaller. Kind of going with this, realistic. This goal should have an outcome that is relevant to your needs and ability to achieve it. Think about what activities will have a sincere impact on your work and how you market that work. So that way you will enjoy working towards accomplishing your goal. And then lastly, it's going to be time-bound or timely. Your goal should be time-bound, meaning you would need to restrict the goal of a certain time frame. A time-bound goal will give you accountability on where you stand at the end of the time frame. A goal without a time frame is going to be really difficult to track and evaluate, since there will always be more time for you to complete it. So again, posting on Instagram 2 times a week, that would be a time-bound goal. Posting on Instagram 1,000 times, period, a little less of a time-bound goal. Even, well, I guess there is an end to that one, but posting on Instagram a lot would be less of a time-bound goal, more of an abstract one. Any questions so far before we move into maybe some examples of marketing when it comes to some SMART goals? Okay, amazing. So here are some goals to kind of develop a marketing plan that we can use for our SMART goals. Things like increasing sales to existing clients or customers, expanding the type of distribution channels where your work is available. Maybe that's in a gallery, online, in a bookstore. you want to sell more art in your existing channels, for example, galleries, shows on social media. Maybe you want to increase your advertising effectiveness, the quality and awareness. So really condensing that social visual brand. And I guess in that would be develop my brand and increase brand awareness. Maybe it is to expand your audience, to get new clients, to find mentors or people that you want to collaborate with. It could be open new markets and expand your geographic reach. It could be to develop or improve your web presence and sell art online. I know mine is. It could just be to spend more time networking, either online or in real life. Maybe a goal you have is to go out to 3 different shows and meet people in your field. It could be to develop or improve your social media skills. It could be to utilize public relations in your marketing efforts. It could even be to just submit more work to juried opportunities. These are all kind of within the realm of marketing ourselves as artists. All right. I have one more exercise, and then I promise we can all hop off this call and have a glass of wine and relax for the day. All right. Well, if there's any more questions, you can always ask them now, but you also have my email. I'm grace@artisttrust.org. And I'm happy to connect at any time. So yeah, thank you so much, y'all. And I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Keep in mind, Luther's social media workshop is coming up too.
Thank you so much, Grace.
Thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. A great
you all.
workshop. Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
You have a good one.